It took a long time. 9 months, in fact. I got a hold of what I needed to start looking into remote viewing. Had to change a lot of things. Had to change my exercise routine. Had to change my diet a lot. Had to go through meditation, keep myself on a schedule, listen to the tapes at certain times, and just kind of make sure that nothing else was in my way from figuring this out. It took about 7 months before I could really start to see anything, but wow, did it freak me out at first. It was kind of cool, though. I could travel anywhere, see just about anything. It seemed as though in some cases time stopped, or if I wanted to, I just let time go. A few times I would simply just putz around for a while, going to different areas, looking at different folks, checking in with friends, old lost folks that I don't know, that I just lost contact with over the years. After having a little bit of fun, well, let's face it, I'm a guy after all, so I am going to sneak into places that usually don't get snuck into. The thing is, you got to be careful. Some people think it's a poltergeist and you accidentally knock something over. It has to do a lot with residents, and I'm really not going to get into it, but let's just say you can accidentally knock some shit over. I decided to look through the future to see what was coming up, and honestly, I'm scared shitless now of what's coming. But I'm a prepper, so I'll be able to get through this okay. I just gotta get through that first year, and then after that, things will get a whole lot easier. Thankfully, I'm set, but not everybody I know is set. I knew at that point I had to spend a lot more time and a lot more money I don't exactly have an abundance of, to get ready for family and friends to show, but at least I'll be ready. The kicker is every time you look into the future and start doing anything else, the future adjusts slightly. Like that little green guy said in that god awful series of movies, ever moving is the future. Hard to see. Yeah, no kidding, it's hard to see. It's like looking through water, everything's kind of blurry. I decided to stick to the present for a while, but then I figured, screw it. I'm going to go to the past. I want to see what happened in the past. I sat there and watched several things. I went to Omaha and Juneau and I watched the invasions. I watched the fall of Germany there twice, once in 1918 and once again in 1944. I went across to different areas. I watched the different battles. I mean, hey, I'm a war nut, so yeah, that's just kind of what I do. But I also got to see different things, how things evolved. But the problem is, something was not right. It was though the past kept changing. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Something just didn't seem right. Technology seemed to suddenly jump and then regress constantly. Jump and then regress. It was over and over again. It was starting to give me a headache. I couldn't figure out for some time how they could build these amazing buildings with technology of the time. It didn't make sense. Even when I went back to see how Egypt decided to make itself be made, something was off. I got there, I thought that the they'd just be building the pyramids, but no, they weren't. They were actually evacuating Egypt for some reason. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but you know what? I said, to hell with this. I'm going back as far as I can. I'm going to stretch this as far as I can possibly go. And for a moment, I flew through time as fast as possible, everything moving around me so fast that you can't focus. Don't you dare try. You'll get stuck. You'll get pulled sideways, and part of you might get pulled away. And then I was there. I arrived on Earth. Was this prehistoric? Holy crap, did I go back a long way? There's dinosaurs. There's mammoths. There's people? What the shit? Moving around, I could see there was civilizations. These civilizations were advanced beyond belief, many of them using anti-gravity tech of different types. There's no exhaust or anything. What the hell is going on? Several giant cities moved around the sky. What the flying fuck knuckles is going on? Is all I could think. Then I got down towards the surface and I could see that giants were also moving. Not only that, there was things there. All I could see were their dragons. What is going on? This wasn't in the history books. This isn't even talked about. What the hell is going on? The giants themselves could move these giant pieces of rock so large that it would take several pieces of industrial equipment just to lift them, let alone put them in place. But along with that, I could see other creatures of myth. This was just blowing my mind. Okay, what type of fucked up dimension did I go into? Is all I could think. I decided to get a broad spectrum view, so I pulled myself away from the planet, which takes only a moment, but I honestly do it a little bit slower so I can keep my mind from actually breaking. And as I do, I notice something. There are giant trees around the world, and when I say giant, I mean absolutely gargantuan. The base of these things has to be several hundred feet across. It's just crazy. Then I looked closer and I saw that most of them were actually larger than that. What the shit? I looked up to the top and they seemed to be producing some sort of golden fruits. And yes, plural. Different types of apples, cherries, pears, peaches, all different ones. They ranged from the size of a small car to the size of a school bus. Some of them didn't look like they were ripe yet, but everything that was ripe seemed to be gold. And when it fell to the ground, and nobody ran away. It seemed like those were running towards it. And when it hit the ground, it exploded in a burst of golden haze. And the golden haze would just spread across. Those on the ground, didn't matter what species, seemed to enjoy this. Okay, I am so lost, I told myself. I got closer to the civilizations and I could see that they were actually in harmony with nature. They used absolutely clean energy. It seemed like they were using some sort of strange metal or material, hitting it with some sort of, I don't know. But when I got close, I got real nauseous. I didn't want to get too close. What was it, radiation or something? I don't know. But whatever it wasn't the primary energy source. At least not the primary energy that most people used. I watched people use magic. That's the best I can explain it. It was friggin' magic. They could start fires pretty much just by snapping their fingers. They could move water into basins. They just had to have the basin close. It was just, I was losing my mind. How is this even possible? I watched and nobody talked to each other, but I could still hear their voices as though everyone talked telepathically. What was going on? I looked even closer at the way they sculpted their buildings, and sure enough, all those extreme intricate carvings were cut in using magic, almost as though it was the speed of thought, but let's face it, you can't quite chisel that fast. I looked over, I could even see cobblers and people making basins. They were still using stone. Why would they still use stone? They have metallurgy. What's going on? I looked over and some of these basins that they were making were so absolutely perfect. They were damn near paper thin, but they could sit there and balance on something not much bigger than a pencil eraser. Sometimes, just for show, they made tiny, tiny little ones and they spun them around. Turns out this was more of a kid's toy than anything else. But I was just amazed. On the ground, small tribes still worked in the dirt. I was amazed. Just what was going on? This cannot be Earth. How is this even possible? What is going on? Small tribes on the ground. You got floating cities up there. This can't be. I mean, seriously, these are humans. What the hell is going on? I decided to get some more answers as I moved over towards the pyramids. I got inside the pyramids where I was constantly shot back and forth. The energy coming out of them was insane. What the shit? I finally got inside and I looked and I could see humans opening portals. Portals that actually opened to other worlds and different species actually came to Earth. At least 3 different species that I could see. I was just amazed. Just put back. If I had heels at that moment, I'd be back on them. I'd be face palming myself if I actually had a face or a palm to smack myself with. I looked at the pyramids. I looked closer and I could see they were stuffed and just using water and nutrients along with the type of stones to create the power that actually ran these portals. That's what these are for? Not only that, but they seem to be connected to each other. I got up higher and I adjusted the wavelength I was working with. Not easy to do, but once you figure out how, it's amazing what you can see. Things in different wavelengths. And yet all the pyramids around the world seem to be connected to each other somehow. What was this? I know there's something in quantum physics about this, but this was possible? I then went back down and I watched as a large portal suddenly opened on the side of the planet. I floated over as fast as I could to see what was going on, and massive ships, easily the size, or 3 times the size, of a commercial supertanker came out. An entire fleet of them, in fact. It seemed as though they were using the Earth's own power sources to open these portals. What the shit? What's going on? This was not in the history books. What am I looking at? These massive ships all seem to have strange claws or legs on the bottom. I was like, what are they? Are they giant crabs or something? What is this? Then I saw them fly straight over to the massive trees. Then the bottom one, whichever one was closest to the ground, would suddenly extend a massive saw and begin to cut through the trees. What was going on? As they were cutting through the large ones, I saw they had already cut some small ones and they're taking them straight through the portals and taking them away. The humans, I saw, fight back along with everything else. The giants would simply throw something heavy, but as soon as the tree was severed, whatever magic the humans were using just failed. With each tree taken, the magic left. It was odd. Those that were able to resonate anything wasn't nearly as strong as it had to be. Though they did take down some of these ships seemed to explode and atomize if they were lost. If they were able to spin in, they immediately aimed for some sort of body of water, many times crashing into the ocean, and I watched as they seemed to push themselves towards the deepest one. Some of them that were only damaged slightly headed south, directly south. Where were they going? I didn't care at that point. I had to see what the hell else was going on. Those in the floating cities, those that were technologically advanced and not focusing on magic, brought a bunch of firepower to bear. The battle city was floating there for a while. However, it could not handle the firepower that was sent to it. Eventually, one crashed into the ocean, then another, and began to systematically explode once they were submerged. Some waited till they were on the bottom, others not so much. A few ended up on the mountains, and then some sort of reaction happened. They burned and seared and melted the mountain, and huge waves of soil, dirt, and mud came down. You would think there'd be glass in it too, but this suddenly ran into the ocean, started pushing everything across as well, and a giant tsunami began to rush across. But it wasn't just water. It was a mixture of soil as well, so much so that the tsunami itself was looking like a giant shit tsunami. The pyramids, as soon as the water hit them, shorted out as it was just too much water, pushing out all the minerals needed to keep them running, and also the sudden shift of water pushed a few of the foundations sideways. I watched as many of those inside tried desperately to get out, and there was nothing I could do but watch. This is what happens when you separate yourself and are looking at the past or the future. I I had to leave. I couldn't. I couldn't sit there and watch as, I don't know, millions, maybe billions are dying. I mean, this is too much death, even for me. And I've seen more than my fair share. I wanted out. I wanted back. And I could feel myself being pulled back to my own timeline. And suddenly, I was back to myself. Heart beating almost out of my chest. I could feel my adrenaline had spiked so much while I was out. I'm just like wanting to do a whole bunch of PT just to burn it off. It took about a whole day just for me to stop shaking. I thought about what they had done. What these, I don't even know which ones they were. This species that decided to use our own technology at the time to come back and take almost everything away from us. Almost everything. I say that because now I will use these abilities that I have sculpted over the past year, and I'm going to find them. And when I do, I will find a way to take back what is ours. God help me. I want to bring some sort of justice to these things. They took something so precious from our world and just didn't care. I do wonder if there's one way to actually get them back. We do have the remnants of their people still here. They're still around. Some of them in some sort of, I don't know, not cryostasis, but just stasis. It's not cold, at least not that I could feel. There's still abouts, but I don't know if I can even use them as a bargaining chip to get them back to the table. I mean, they wrote these survivors off, at least I think so. But as I get ready to go back in, I feel something pulling me. Something pulling me directly to the South Pole. Hello, everybody. This is Syntax. Thank you so much for joining me on today's story. Before I go, I gotta send a couple quick thank yous to some of my supporters. That would be SS Demon and Erica Gem. Thank you so much both for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I will see you on the next one. This is Syntax, ejecting.